In this presentation, we're going to look at adjectives. Let's look at a definition first. An adjective, 1, describes a noun, or 2, acts as a complement with verbs that need to be completed. For example, to be, to look, to seem, to get. Let's have a look at some examples. Soft, beautiful, green, noisy, deserted, big, curious, impressive, enormous, thoughtful, best, taller, animated, debugged, drastic, old, crooked, wise, stolen, flying, torrential. Of course, it's important to remember that these words aren't always adjectives. It really depends on how they're being used in the sentence. For example, the word green, if I say the boy is wearing green shorts, then it's an adjective because it's describing the noun, the shorts. But if I say we played football on the village green, then I'm talking about a place, the village green, and then that becomes a noun. So it really is important to look at where the word is in context, so what it's doing in the sentence. So let's have a bit of a closer look at that definition then. Firstly, adjectives describe nouns. So let's look at some examples. The wise old owl. Here, wise and old are describing the owl, describing that thing. And so those are the adjectives. The soft, green, luscious grass. Grass is the noun, it's the thing, and soft, green and luscious are describing it, so they're the adjectives. The crooked house. House is a thing, so that's our noun, and crooked is describing what the house is like, so crooked is an adjective. And we notice that the adjective comes before the noun. You might have heard of the word modify, and this is because you can also say that adjectives modify nouns. This just means that they make their meaning more specific, so they change the noun or modify it. So for example, the plain flower. The adjective plain changes that type of flower. The polite pupil. Again, this gives more specific meaning rather than just using the word pupil. The crooked house. And again, it modifies the noun, it modifies or changes your understanding of that noun. So it's not just any old house, this is a crooked house. The second thing that adjectives do is complement verbs that need completing. So adjectives complement certain verbs that record states and that need completing. Let's look at some examples. The owl was wise. Was comes from the verb to be, and you can't just leave it on its own. The owl was, well, the owl was what? So we need an adjective to go on the end to describe what the owl was. The owl was wise. Again, the grass looked luscious. Here the verb is looked. You couldn't just leave the sentence, the grass looked. We need to know what it looked like. And the adjective goes on the end to tell us the grass looked luscious. Again, the house seemed crooked. If we left off the adjective, the sentence wouldn't make sense. The house seemed, or what did it seem? And we need the adjective there to describe what it seemed and to act as the complement for that verb seemed. So here the adjective comes after the verb. We can also use adjectives to compare things. So here are some examples. Here we can say good, then compare to something else, better, and then the ultimate would be the superlative, which is best. We've got tall, taller, tallest, long, longer, longest, happy, happier, happiest. And you can see that the comparative adjectives generally end with the suffix er, and the superlative adjectives generally end with the suffix est. Take care though, there are some important examples that don't follow the rules. Here are some examples of those irregular comparative adjectives. Irregular means that they just don't follow the rules. Some adjectives don't have their own comparative or superlative form. For example, you can say beautiful, that was a beautiful sunset, but you wouldn't say that sunset was beautifuler than the one last night. You'd use the word more. So you'd say that was more beautiful than anything I've ever seen. And again, for the superlative, you'd use most beautiful.